Hello, this is the second part of a two-part episode. So if you didn't listen to last week's episode, I suggest you go back and listen to episode 6. But if you're like a real contrarian and you refuse to do that for some reason, we're starting where we left off. I'm talking to Laurie Borowski, the CEO of In Control Diapers, a critically acclaimed adult diaper brand, and we're entering the interview where we were talking about their social media presence. You might hear a clip or two that we used last week, don't freak out. I just wanted to let some of Laurie's ideas breathe a little bit more. Do you have specific goals or strategies you're trying to accomplish as a brand with social media?
Yeah, everything we do is about reducing stigma and having some fun with what we do. A lot of content we see has like older people, or they're focusing just on the diapers or the disability. And we just want that to be a part of who people are. You know, obviously it's about the product to some extent, but really it's more about the people and how we can support them.
How much do you think wearing adult diapers can be destigmatized? Like, are you trying to make wearing diapers cool? Is it cool already?
I don't think it's cool already.
Okay.
We're not there yet. I do think it can, to some extent, be destigmatized. And I think it really needs to be. Like, with our aging population, there's going to be a lot of people in product, and it's going to be really uncomfortable if people can't talk about it and feel comfortable with it.
So the goal is for it to be viewed as like any other fashion choice, or?
Well, any other underwear choice, I guess.
Okay. So like Calvin Klein goals. On your website, you talk about how you offer discreet packaging to the point where you don't even put your company on the shipping label. What are you trying to accomplish with that level of discretion?
We want to leave the decision up to them about who they're informing. You know, it's still like medical privacy as far as we're concerned. So
is it hard to hold both of those separate goals of like really trying to destigmatize the wearing of your products, but knowing that not everyone is there yet and might not share that goal?
Well, and that's it. Like, that's not their goal and doesn't need to be their goal. We're putting ourselves out there so other people don't have to. So when they do want to share with people, that they're not putting themselves out on the line as much.
A noble goal to have.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as a business entering a space, you should have a purpose. You should have something that you're working towards that's going to better the world when you're done. So, I don't know. In North America, we've left no space for many disabilities, especially the more hidden ones. And I just think the more we can get it talked about, the more we can, be seen in more places.
Well, Laurie, I think I heard some poop positivity in those answers. Or diaper positivity? But I didn't get into the podcasting business to fawn over CEOs. I got in it to make stupid little jokes about Kendrick Lamar and unknowingly stumble into a world of diapers that I knew nothing about. So there seems to be someone on your social media team who is pretty plugged into trends and memes. What role do you think humor plays in selling adult diapers?
In the beginning, I thought like maybe we shouldn't put too much humor in it. It's kind of a fine line. But I think most people who deal with heavy things in their life, humor is a very healthy way of coming to terms with that. And yeah, I mean, it takes a lot for somebody to like or subscribe even to something like that, because then it's going to like track them back to a diaper brand. So making content that people feel comfortable sharing to spread that awareness is really our goal.
You guys used the song Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar in one of your Instagram reels. Are you familiar with that song?
I am aware of that reel and that song. Yeah. There was a bit of pushback on that one. There's a diaper community of people who wear for novelty purposes. The term's ABDL.
Which stands for?
Adult Baby Diaper Lover. It's a newer term that's kind of been coined and used for that community. So
the pushback to the Not Like Us reel was that it was a diss to the ABDL community?
Yeah. A lot of those people have been accused of inappropriate things, which is completely inaccurate and untrue, but they felt very strongly that that was insinuating something directly towards them, which was not.
Interesting. Because the song insinuates that Drake is a pedophile.
Yeah.
If you're still confused about what exactly the ABDL community is, well, we've got the rest of the episode to sort that out. If you're lost because you don't know the song Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, you should have listened to part 1. I will not be re-explaining that historic rap beef today. How did you deal with that as a brand?
Well, the person who was managing the socials at that time, that person's no longer with us.
Oh, wow.
You know, obviously no harm was intended. The response could have definitely been managed in a much healthier way.
Sure.
So, you know, it was unfortunate. And we have lots of love for all people who wear diapers for all reasons, whether it's, you know, emotional, mental, physical needs. We're not here to judge or...
Are you trying to say ABDL users are welcome at In Control?
Absolutely. I mean, I met hundreds of people from the ABDL community as well, and they're all, you know, lovely people and nothing bad to say about them.
Laurie is a little more personally familiar with the ABDL community, but she also has a professional stake in staying in that community's good graces.
The nice thing about the ABDL community is they're choosing the products and they love the products. Mm-hmm. With the incontinence side, more and more people are loving them, but it's a love-hate relationship. There's something about selling something to somebody that just 100% unequivocally loves what you do. So that's a great relationship to have with your customers.
Sure. It makes a lot of sense that a diaper company would have a great relationship with a community of diaper lovers. If there was a community called Poop Podcast Lovers, I think I'd have a pretty good relationship with them, too. To be more transparent than I often am with you, I really struggled with what my relationship to the ABDL community should be. Usually, I'm really excited to talk to any of my guests, but I didn't know a ton about the ABDL community, and it wasn't particularly easy to find information about them online. So, I only really had my own uninformed notions and musings and fears about what this community was. But to stay true to the DNA of this podcast, the curiosity and positivity with which we treat often stigmatized topics, I decided to go forward with an interview, and I'm really glad that I did. To give you a peek behind the curtain, you know, Jeff Goldblum style, all of the interviews I've done for this podcast were much longer than the clips you heard. What you're going to hear for the rest of this episode is a much less edited interview. I'm doing this because when I listened back to it, I could hear my own attitude change in real time. I didn't want to start wearing diapers, but my hope is that by listening to me kind of stumble and work out my own thoughts while conducting this interview, you'll be able to gain an understanding of this community that isn't led by some of the fear or misconceptions that I have. So, without further ado, welcome back to Someone's in Here, a podcast where, for the third episode in a row, we talk to people about diapers. I'm your host, Ben Castleman. Thank you so much for tuning in. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. My name is Mommy Cat, and I own a ABDL nursery in Denver, Colorado.
Sorry, I already have to jump in. With any niche community, there are going to be a lot of specific insider terms. So, in this community, there are littles or adult babies, and those are people who regress, a term we'll be using a lot, to childlike states. And then there are bigs or mommies that act as the caregiver role. Kat runs an ABDL nursery, so she is a mommy to littles for money. But, as you'll hear from her, she takes on a lot of different roles within the ABDL space. Can you talk a little bit about the ABDL community? Like, what does it stand for? Who are adult babies and who are diaper lovers? And are those two different things?
Yeah, so ABDL stands for Adult Baby Diaper Lover, and they are definitely two separate things, although some people are both. Adult babies are grown adults that find pleasure and or healing in behaving like a baby, regressing into a place that, has no responsibility and expectation and pressure of adulting. And then the diaper lover is someone who just loves the feeling of wearing diapers. And a lot of times that may be for incontinence or just because, it's comforting.
Okay, so the definition of a diaper lover is just that they wear diapers. Like, behavioral wise, they might behave completely similarly to anyone else.
Yes, absolutely.
You were a little for a while, correct?
I still am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I am what's considered a genuine switch. So I enjoy both sides of the ABDL spectrum. Okay,
and are you on one side of the ABDL split, or?
Yes, I would be considered an AB on both sides. So I enjoy being little. I love the feeling that it gives you of being small and getting to relive some of those childlike activities. But I also love taking care of those who enjoy that as well as a AB mommy.
Okay, so do you not wear diapers then?
I do, but only when little.
Okay, so do adult babies generally wear diapers?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I think I am a little confused about the distinction then.
Sure. They both wear diapers, but one regresses into a childlike state where the other does not.
Got it. Okay. What made you initially want to regress into an adult baby state? Like, what got you involved in the community?
So I have always had what I would consider a little side. I've always enjoyed dressing younger and enjoying, activities that are generally considered childlike. But I found the ABDL community years ago when someone who was in the community introduced me to it because they knew that I was what is just considered a little, which is kind of this same thing, but without the diapers. And they said, Kat, you would love this. Have you ever heard? And I instantly loved it on both sides. I love providing that safe, comforting space for others and putting them in diapers. But I also love wearing and getting the benefits of being little as well.
Okay. And you, when you wear the diapers, you're using them, correct?
Not always, but yes, sometimes, because there is play involved in that. I think a lot of people assume that just because you wear them, you use them, but that's not true. There's an entire, subcategory of ABDLs that don't use, and then some use them for everything, if you know what I mean.
I'm not sure. I know what you mean.
So for me, I only enjoy wetting. And that is just part of an entire fetish that goes along with like pee fetish. And then there's others that take it a step further and use their diapers for everything. And that is not me.
Okay. So you're just making the distinction between peeing and pooping. Is that okay to 1 and 2? Okay. That's how you'd like to refer to it? Yeah. Well, wetting is like a specific term. I was wondering if there's a different term for number 2.
That would just be messing.
Messing.
And there's a whole category of people who are really, really into that. And that has never been something I've adopted for myself on either end of the spectrum. My biggest separation is that if it doesn't make me feel empowered, sexy, or cute, I don't want to engage in it. And for me, it can be very empowering to give someone a golden shower, but it is not empowering, cute, or sexy to me to mess a diaper.
Okay. So we're talking about you personally. We're not kink shaming someone who would like to mess their own diaper. Is it just like poop is gross?
I mean, isn't it? For me, yes, it is gross. I do not have a place of humiliation within my regression. I want to be adored and spoiled and doted on. And that just isn't a part of it for me. Got
it. Okay. You would rather not do it. I'm still getting used to the wording, but like, do you do all of your work as a mommy like for money? I think I'm curious about like how you would, and like if you do separate the fact that it's a job from like being bonded to the people that you work with.
Absolutely. So there is definitely a difference there. I provide mommy sessions for people who want to pay for my time, but I am also in a ABDL switch relationship in my everyday life. So it's not just a job for me, even though I am very successful at running my nursery. It is a lifestyle, 100%, on both sides of my switch, as a mommy and as a little. That is part of my lifestyle with my partner.
And you're in a monogamous relationship?
Yes.
With someone that switches between being a little and a big? Is that the term?
Yes, it is. And that is correct.
Cool. I didn't know that. Okay, that was a lot of information, but I feel like we have a good ABDL thesaurus going, and you and I now have a better grasp of the basics. But just to clarify, Kat is paid to be a mommy at her nursery, and she also is in a committed monogamous relationship with a partner, and they role play with each other, switching which one of them is the AB and which one of them is the caregiver. I think that for the basic mommy session packages, nothing explicitly sexual is going on. I didn't directly ask, so That's my bad. But you can pair ABDL sessions with BDSM at Cat's Nursery. It's my understanding that being in the ABDL community does not require sexual role play, but that it certainly does happen. Now that we've got a good baseline understanding, let's get a little further in. What is arousing about wearing a diaper for you?
I wouldn't say that it's arousing, and it's definitely for some people it is. But for me, it's a tool. Just like any other object that may make you feel a little, whether it's drinking from a sippy cup or coloring in a coloring book. The diaper is a tool of regression, and it's also a way of giving up control to someone else. So while diapers do not necessarily turn me on, the idea of being very vulnerable does, and the diapers are the tool that gets a lot of us there.
Got it. I think when some people think of like giving up power, like submitting or like dominating, in the minor experiences that I've had with like playing with power dynamics, I think nerves is part of it for me. But it seems like when you're talking about regressing, I can't tell if that's the case. Do nerves play a part of it, or is it a different type of power dynamic that's helping you be bonded to your partner?
Well, I think when you speak about nerves, it's very similar to when I say vulnerability, because there is a certain amount of anxiety and nervousness, and you're absolutely right. It's really very much the same thing as it is in most power dynamics. Because when you're talking about playing in an ABDL kink, you are giving up power to the caregiver, and there's anxiety that goes along with that because, letting go is very hard. But I think that is where the healing and a lot of the benefit comes in from playing with an ABDL kink or lifestyle.
Okay. I think I'm understanding it enough. When you say vulnerable, I can tap into like how knowing a partner better than you know a different partner often makes sexual experiences better.
Yeah.
Can you explain how changing someone else's diaper bonds you to them?
Yeah. When you experience a session or playtime with your partner where you are getting to be their caregiver, it shows just how close they are with you to be able to be their 100% true self. And providing that for someone that you love is incredibly special. And it's something that I enjoy very much, to see my partner or even people that I play with that I am very close to be able to trust me on that level.
Got it. It seems like what I'm picking up on is like a lot of it is about acceptance. Obviously, you have like some type of proclivity to act in a regressive way, but I guess like one way in for people who don't understand it as well is just like someone who were to play to like be goofy, being with a partner that accepts that can be healthy and like more romantic for your relationship.
Yeah, and incredibly healing. I think within the past few years, there's been a lot of kind of desensitizing to women maybe calling their partner daddy or vice versa with the mommy role, and a lot of adulting sucks. I just want to be a baby. And through TikTok and Instagram, we have seen a huge trend of I just want to be babied by my partner. I'm sure you've seen the TikToks where someone crawls up onto the other person's lap because they just want to be cradled and loved. Like, everyone has that urge. The ABDL community just takes it a little deeper. And it's an escape from the world that puts so much pressure on us to be a certain way.
Yeah, I think you explained that well. I haven't seen that particular TikTok trend, but yes, I think cuddling being cared for is something that a lot of people like to have. You've been talking a lot about the healing power of being an adult baby or a diaper lover. Do you have any personal examples or like examples of people that you have provided like mommy services for that can drive home how that might help someone heal?
Absolutely. So I am by no means a professional therapist, or do I have the prerequisites to speak for everyone on this. But I know for myself, when you go through a traumatic experience, whether that's the death of a parent or an abusive parent, a certain amount of emotional progress, growth, maturity stops at the point of that traumatic event. And for some people, going back to that age and getting to just behave in a way that is vulnerable and feel like it's a safe environment where they got what they wanted or maybe even what they should have gotten from that parental figure or that caregiver, it's very powerful. And I am by no means saying that everyone finds the ABDL community because of trauma, but it is very, very common.
Yeah, that I'm learning quite a bit. I can see that as a tactic. I think I'm still struggling a little bit with like what would make you want to have that as a lifestyle or as an identity.
Sure. So just to be able to escape into this childlike state every once in a while, it almost resets the nervous system in a way that takes away that anxiety and works on the constant pull at you to be and live up to certain expectations. You know, spending a couple of hours watching cartoons or coloring in a coloring book doesn't hurt anyone. And just because it isn't understood by the masses does not mean it doesn't help those people immensely. It's still healing and still therapeutic to be told, you know, it's okay to feel this way and you deserve freedom to be yourself.
Totally. I think I'm risking asking like somewhat repetitive questions, but just to try to bridge the gap one last time and use an example. I watched the Vice profile that was done on you and your mommying, and one of the things that they filmed was you asking the little how many crackers she had. It seemed like she had 4 crackers. I think I'm struggling to bridge the gap with like how counting to 4 is like a freeing and like how regressing in that way is.
It's not the specific action or activity. It is the act of letting go and being in that little headspace. It's letting mommy asks you to do anything, you know, playing with cars on the floor and going to the park. We did many things in that amazing documentary that was filmed. And I can see your disconnect without the prerequisites that, you know, that no giving up control and just being in the moment and letting go enough to be silly, to be childlike, to be young, to do something as simple as counting goldfish crackers on the high chair tray it isn't so much the specific action as it is the whole picture. And the whole picture is just being small.
Right. This is what we're going to do today. That we're going to do it to like the fullest amount.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is the point. Okay. So when I started interviewing people for this episode, I was focusing on what I had always thought of as adult diaper wearers, what I think most people think of. I wasn't even thinking of younger people who had incontinence. I was just thinking about older adults. It's almost like the very thing that it attracts some people to the ABDL community is what they're resistant to, right? Like regressing and feeling like a child can be healing or can help you be more aroused with your sexual partner. For people dealing with incontinence later in life, it might be the biggest mental hurdle to regress. If you deal with incontinence later in life, I think it's in America, something like 50% of adults over 65 deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it'll be easier to adjust, or do you think you'll still deal with that mental hurdle?
I do think it'll be easier. I'll just feel like I am prepared for it, and I'll know my resources. There's definitely a bit of a joke within the community about, just being there early. And I definitely think that people who maybe were ABDL, but end up having to wear for medical reasons later in life will just find it somewhat humorous.
That's nice. That's nice that that part of aging will be easier for a lot of you, and that you guys are. It seems like you personally have a good sense of humor about it. What would you say to an older adult who's struggling to adjust to wearing diapers to encourage them?
I would tell them, honestly, not to worry about the things that you can't control, and accepting yourself is very, very important for self-love. And there are so many fun aspects of it now, and so many companies making cute options. And, it really just boils down to being free within your circumstances. And if that maybe is something that you're struggling, to accept, then that's the self-love that you would need to look for first.
I love that. I think that's very good advice. I'm going to take a little bit of a turn now and talk about kind of what brought me from my last interview to wanting to talk to someone in the ABDL community. Are you familiar with the Kendrick Lamar song, Not Like Us?
Vaguely, yes. I believe I know the song.
Okay. In Control Diapers got in some hot water earlier this year when they posted a reel with that song, and some adult baby diaper lovers took it as an insult to their community. Do you understand what those individuals were upset about?
I do understand. There is a reference in that song that is quite toxic. Personally, knowing the situation, I believe the song was used without understanding any of the rest of the lyrics. And it was an oversight to use a song that had a pedophilia reference.
That topic, or that association, is so toxic that even that song being played over people wearing diapers can get people defensive, it seems like, right?
And understandably.
So you're of the mindset of you're an adult diapers company, you've got to be aware if you're bringing that touchy of a subject forward.
Absolutely. I think it was an unfortunate oversight, and one that I have heard has been reconciled since then. And for that, I'm grateful. There is in no way any doubt in my mind that that was an intentional use or an intentional dig at anyone. Yeah, it's just unfortunate all around for, the click of a button to have started such an online brush fire.
Do you think that's the biggest challenge or misconception that ABDL people face? Is the association to pedophilia?
100%. Yes. I think that there's a lot of people out there that don't have the prerequisites to understand how different it really is. It is not an interest in children. It is an interest in letting go. You have to be an adult first in order to be an ABDL. That is what the A stands for, an adult baby. And seeing, when it comes to the kink side of things, the interest, the desire to see an adult who, maybe is a successful businessman regress down into a baby is very different than an interest in an actual child. And unfortunately for this community, there is not a lot of separation in a lot of people's minds, because it is the first thing that people go to is, they're perpetuating this or enabling that. And it's really an innocent attempt to go inward for ourselves and heal something and enjoy something. And it has absolutely nothing to do with children.
It seems like in that answer, you are aware of, even if it's an unjustified fear, it seems like you're pretty aware of like why it is present.
Yes, it would be hard not to be. Yes.
Right. There's obviously a stigma and that can be lessened, but it seems like a big hurdle to fully take that association away. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I don't think that there's ever going to be a time where we truly get over that as a community. And while that is incredibly unfortunate, it is up to the people in the community that want to advocate for the healthy part of ABDL to continue to just educate people on the subject.
Weirdly, I think that this was the moment where I allowed my mind to open a little more and take in everything that Kat had said. I guess I was expecting Kat to push back more on the fact that there's kind of a natural association to the fear that this community might be dangerous to children. She's in the community, so she knows it's not dangerous. But the recognition that she'll probably always be fighting that stigma, it made me feel like our perspectives were not as far away as I thought they were. I guess that's just a part of people not understanding kinks, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard for some people to understand why some people have an interest in pain, associated with pleasure. Like for some people, they can't wrap their head around that. Or you can't wrap your head around why foot fetish exists, because they're sexualizing a part of the body that, is kind of ugly. And so if you're not part of the community and you don't have any kinks at all on your plate, it makes it even harder to understand someone else who has something that is maybe a little obscure and misunderstood, for sure.
Okay. I think we covered that angle. I'm gonna move on, but thank you for being honest about all of that. I feel like from what I've seen, a lot of ABDL people decide to be anonymous and not use their real names on social media.
Yes.
What do you attribute that to? What's pushing the community to have to wear diapers in secret?
The stigma. The stigma that we talked about earlier, about just assuming that, it makes you a sympathizer to that particular party, but also the fear of people finding out. A lot of people who are ABDL, nobody knows. Their friends certainly don't know. Their family does not know. They wouldn't want their work to know. Up until the Vice documentary, which was considered the best piece of ABDL information out there, the media coverage of this kink has been incredibly negative, with an episode on CSI or My Strange Addiction, where it was associated with, addiction, which is not something that anybody wants to be represented by here in this community. There has been a lot of comedy representation over ABDL, and, people don't want to be associated with that. They don't want for someone to only have seen that garbage and then say, but my friend's into that. The stigma is hard to get over.
What made you comfortable being more open than a lot of people?
I am very lucky in the sense that I have made a business for myself that is not threatened by what I do in my personal life. And so when I made the decision to put my ABDL side, whether it was mommy or my little side, out onto, I think I did it on Instagram first, I said, I want to be someone that the community can look up to because I represent them as someone who is not afraid to be out there. And It has had its challenges, absolutely, but it has had more reward than it could ever have challenge.
Nice. I'm glad that's been rewarding for you. I think I saw on an interview you did, you talked about your first husband being Mormon. Were you a Mormon as well?
I married into the Mormon church for a few years, yes.
What an interesting path.
Very much so. To go from something that is so repressed to living a life that is not repressed at all was incredibly freeing and exhilarating for me, for sure.
How soon after you left the church did you find like this freeing community?
Almost immediately did I find my own sexual liberation, but I did not find the ABDL community until years later. I have always had an interest in being regressed, small, wearing cute outfits, being called baby girl, but diapers as the tool didn't come to me until years later. You know, the DDLG community and the ABDL community has a lot of crossover. And I can tell by your face, you want me to say that means Daddy Dom Little Girl. So we have all these acronyms, and someone should put out a BDSM dictionary. But Daddy Dom Little Girl is just a dynamic where you look at your partner like a caregiver. You know, calling your partner daddy is become a lot more mainstream, accepted, and popular. And unfortunately, ABDL did not come along with that. Even though it's very similar, the only difference between the two is an item, and that item is the diaper.
What do you think has allowed you to find a place for yourself in such a diverse range of communities? Like, we're talking all the way back from when you were in the Mormon church to now your like newest forays and all of the acronyms that you've moved through.
I know. I have always been an extremely open-minded person, and I have never judged someone based on, you know, a difference or something I didn't understand. And I have found myself introduced to so many different things because of that. I like to call them colors of my rainbow, because DDLG and ABDL and BDSM are just facets of me that make up the bigger person.
I do just want to say that I think not only do you seem to be remarkably open-minded, but I don't know exactly what I was expecting from this interview. I've never, to my knowledge, talked to someone in the ABDL community, and I think you have a very good grasp of just what explains lifestyles and chosen communities.
I'm glad. I'm flattered. Thank you.
Are there any taboos that you really don't feel comfortable talking about, or that you've tried and you didn't feel comfortable partaking in?
No, I'm very accepting of everyone. I feel if it doesn't affect me personally, I shouldn't have an opinion about someone else's choices. And if it did affect me personally, I am adult enough to have a conversation with that person and set boundaries. I mean, I get a lot of hate on the internet from people who don't understand the things that I'm into. And I always wish them well, because just because they don't have the education on the topic doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that they don't have the prerequisites to understand.
Have you always had that mindset, or have you had to build that? And
it's definitely a learning experience that has been built over time. I used to get very offended when someone would come to me with negativity, and I had to start looking at it in a different way, because you cannot control other people. You can only control how you feel or how you handle yourself in that situation. I have a nonstop flow of messages in my inbox of thank you for representing us in such a way, and thank you for giving us someone to look up to and being a shining light in the community. And those messages make the hate and harassment that I get because of it worthwhile. So I choose to look at people who don't understand what I do, or maybe don't agree with something that I'm doing as just a child playing on the floor who does not understand.
That's funny. That was my last question for you. Do you have any questions for me?
How did you find all of this? How did you stumble into a world of diapers that you knew nothing about?
It was really by chance. I totally stumbled into the whole controversy that we talked about. And then I just followed that.
You fell down the diaper rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. I think you're a great ambassador.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, honestly.
That's the show for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Some housekeeping. We are going to be off for another month or so, and then we'll be back with 1 or 2 episodes for the end of season 1. Someone's in Here was created, edited, and produced by me, Ben Castleman. Thank you so much to Kat Marie and Laurie Borowski. The theme song, which you are listening to now, is by Matt and Alex Schumann. The cover art is by Yeji Kim. This episode contains original music composed by Gabe Grand. Thank you to Elise Samuels and Jacob Sherman for editorial notes. Follow us at Someone's In Here _podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Reach out to us on social or at someone'sinhere.pod@gmail.com. Leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars, please. You can find a link to the Vice video that Kat and I both referenced in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you soon.